Hi everyone. It's more silent than it was last time when we walked out, so apologies about that. We had very loud music for some reason. Welcome to OnStage S26. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Taurus, one of the co-founders of OnStage, and this is Izzy, one of my other co-founders alongside Hector. The pace of change in venture is like nothing we've seen before. The fundamental rules of venture feel like they're being rewritten every week, and benchmarks for startup success aren't far behind. Shifting geopolitics and growing demand for European sovereignty makes our collective urgency more important than ever. Lagora, 11 Labs, Lovable, lots of other companies being built in that ilk are leading the way. And our job is to empower the next wave of revolutionary founders building in Europe. For that, we need better venture infrastructure and closer collaboration across the European ecosystem. That's exactly why OnStage exists. OnStage is truly community-powered, so I want to say a huge thank you to all the sponsors, VCs, founders, angels, and everyone else who's played a part along the way across the last 6.5 years now since we started doing this. Today, you'll hear from 16 of Europe's most promising early-stage founders building across a huge range of categories, each one revolutionizing the way we live, work, or play. We aim for every single demo day to surpass the last one, and I'm confident that today will be our best one yet, so no pressure to the founders. Now I'll pass over to Izzy to talk through today's agenda.
Thank you, Taus. So the first segment of today is the pitches. As Taus mentioned, we've got 16 amazing founders on stage today. Each one of these founders has 2 minutes to pitch, and maybe slightly different to other pitching events, there's no comparing from the OnStage team in between those pitches. So once a founder's time is up, you'll hear this noise. Very tense. The founder that was running previously will hand over to the next, and so on and so forth. For details on each founder, you can scan the QR code on the screen here, where you can see more details on the company and also request direct introductions. We do a really good job at automating our introductions, so it's actually the quickest way to reach out to these founders rather than going through LinkedIn. Once the pitches are done, we'll take a short break before coming back here at about 11:45 for our fireside chat, hosted by our very own Hector Mason. If you guys were here last time, you'll know his fireside chat with Harry Stebbings was pretty iconic. This time round, we originally had Matt Wilson from Jack and Jill lined up to speak to Hector today, but he's actually been pulled to San Francisco for some important business. So in his place, we'll have the equally formidable Cyrus Meehan, co-founder and CTO, taking the stage. We're really excited for this jazz. We'll be wrapped up in here by about 12:30, after which we would love to invite you guys downstairs to the bar for our after party. We've got some really amazing food and also an open bar if you fancy having a couple of drinks at 1 p.m. Before we get into the pitches, I want to say a quick thank you to all of our sponsors who made this possible. We've got Google Cloud, Cooley, Novabook, Tech Credit Partners, Harmonic, and Revolut, who are actually hosting a demo day watch party at their Canary Wharf HQ with some of our applicant founders right now, so I'm going to give them a wave. That's everything from me. I'll hand over now to our first pitcher of the day.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn. I'm the CEO of Poindexter Labs. 2 years ago, I was a maths teacher and high school vice principal, and I got a message on LinkedIn saying, hey, do you want to do maths Olympiad questions in your spare time? We'll pay you $50 an hour. And I thought, are you kidding? I would do that for free. So very quickly, I was seduced into the world of data annotation. Loved the work, met some amazing fellow nerds, but got incredibly frustrated with how unbelievably broken the systems were. I was on some projects where 90% of the data that they paid to have created was discarded. And it wasn't because it was bad data, it was because they had the wrong workflows. They were still using workflows from when the data they were creating was for autonomous vehicles. So we looked at the problem and we said, well, we're not doing that anymore. What we're doing is like academia. We need high trust, high transparency, collaboration, and high integrity. And that's what we built. We started in August when we actually had a contract with one of our competitors coming to us saying, we can't make this project work. Can you help us? And we said, yeah, of course. In our first 6 months, we did $1.6 million in revenue to our competitors. We closed our seed round a couple weeks ago with episode 1 leading. Thank you so much, Hector and the team. And we're really excited about what's coming next. I'm here today because I really need your help in getting the word out about Poindexter Labs. Please follow us on Twitter if you like our puzzles. We've got more of those coming up on Twitter all the time. And if you are interested, we're having our launch party tonight at, wait for it, Maths World. I know. I can see you're all as excited as I am. But it's really exciting to be here, and thank you all so much for listening. Bye.
Hi everyone, I'm Dylan, and I am the CEO and one of the co-founders of Council. There are 2 secrets I want to tell you guys about today, both of which you probably have heard of or know of already. The first is, in legal AI, there is a transition that will happen in the coming future where the big players will transition from selling software to selling services. If there are any lawyers from Cooley in here, I think they're coming for you. The second is, and in order to do that, those autonomous long horizon agents will need full contextual awareness. The second is, and this is an unpopular view, but if you talk to any lawyer, they'll tell you that adoption of legal AI in their firm has been tepid at best. The reason why is pretty simple. It's because these agents don't know anything about their users. They don't understand the firm, they don't understand the clients, they don't understand the matters. At Council, we are building the self-maintaining context layer starting in legal. We read every email that passes through a firm, we read every file that passes through, and we transcribe every meeting. We know everything about the firm, its full institutional knowledge, across all of its clients and across all of its matters. Now, you might wonder, why then don't these legal AI companies build a context layer? Well, that's exactly what they want to do in the future, but they're going about it in the wrong way. Today, we wrap our context layer with our own agents. We integrate into tools like Claude and ChatGPT, allowing lawyers to use those, leveraging the full institutional knowledge of their firm. In the last 120 days, we have 5x our revenue. We're now profitable, which means we don't need your money, but we would love it. And we've been approached for acquisition 3 times by some very well-known legal AI companies. My name is Dylan Harindran. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Council, and our website is gc.inc if you want to find out more. Thank you very much.
So, at Bubble Robotics, we are building the ocean's autonomous workforce. Because we believe the ocean holds the keys to the biggest challenges of our century: fossil fuel phase out, global security, food for all, or even climate stability. And the industry is entering a new scale phase. Offshore wind alone is going to grow 6-fold in the next 5 years. And hybrid warfare, sabotage are growing threats. The consequence is the seabed data we need today is 1,000 times larger than it used to be in the 80s from just oil and gas. The budgets are not 1,000 times larger. Neither is the workforce. We're going to need 630,000 skilled workers by 2030. And the current toolbox customers have today is prehistoric. We've had autonomous rovers on Mars for decades. At sea, robots barely last 1 day without ships and crew supports. So if you want to reach the scale we need today, you need a new workforce, which is affordable, autonomous, and persistent. I'm Jean, the CEO of Bubble Robotics. I previously backed startups as a deep tech venture capital investor, and I'm a repeat climate entrepreneur. My co-founder, Patricia, was actually an extreme environmental robotics expert from NASA. She built autonomous rovers for Mars and autonomous robots for Venus exploration at NASA. We are 12 engineers, raised $5 million, and are bringing a new toolbox to the industry. So let's take Chris, one of the biggest offshore wind operator in the world. He burns $2 million a year to send vessels and crews to his wind farm, 50K per day, 40 days per year on average. 90% of that is the ships and the people. So, and still 4 out of 5 failures happen underwater. At Bubble, we provide him that subsea data 10x better and 10x cheaper, because no humans are required at sea, or no vessels are required at sea. It's also 90% less CO2 emissions. We are a new full-stack underwater monitoring provider. We actually deliver data from persistency, autonomy, and insights, because we sell actually insights and not robots. We are live with pilot customers representing up to $45 million in ARR. And if you want to join us to build this new constellation, we're happy to talk. Goodbye.
Hi everyone. Every year, 1.7 trillion worth of motor claims are still analyzed manually or not checked at all. This means that insurance companies spend billions in an inefficient analysis of these claims, fraud slips through, and liability claims takes years to resolve. We built Liablix to change that. A couple of years ago, my co-founder Filippo approached me asking to automate the job that he was doing over the last 20 years. He was an entrusted expert for biggest insurance firm for going with them into the court and defend them in a liability case or fraudulent cases. So we built a platform, a software to automatically analyze claims by combining AI, 3D computer vision, and physics-based simulation. Our software, starting from simply the images of the cars after the crash, can reconstruct the scene in 3D, can simulate the dynamic, and can assess liability and bodily injuries. Insurance are using our platform to assess liability early, estimate the injuries of the claims, and to understand if the damages are compatible with the declared dynamic or not. Over the last 4 months, after our launch of our insurance product, we are live with year-long contracts with 2 of the major insurance firms. We have 4 POCs running across Germany, Italy, and Spain, and we are opening the UK and US market as of this month. We firmly believe that in the future, claims will not be analyzed manually anymore, and Liablix is building the tools to do that automatically.
Hi, I'm Fazan, founder of LabVic. Imagine you're at a biotech approaching a major milestone, a financing round, a partnership deal, a submission to the regulator. At some point, the question comes, show me the data trail behind your output. You go through lab shelves, experiment notebooks, inventories. But the problem is that some parts of this trail were never created, and the ones that were do not connect. Months of work go to waste, R&D spend produces nothing, you lose credibility. The root cause of this is structural. Complete records require meticulous, real-time documentation by scientists as they work, which does not hold in practice. Yet every existing tool assumes that complete, perfect data exists. So the gap is at the foundation. To solve this, we are building LabVic. It is a system of record for research materials where capture happens directly from the physical world and orchestrates with digital sources, not by automating the scientists away, but by working alongside them. By doing so, traceability and integrity of data no longer depends on the workflow. It becomes a property of the architecture itself. What we are building is the foundational data layer that powers every tool in a life science lab. Thank you.
Hello everyone, it's nice to be here, and I'm really excited to talk to you about tail gas and what we're building. But before I tell you about what we're building, I just want to explain a little bit about why I think it's really important. So the UK used to be a very self-sufficient energy producer. But in 2004, the UK transitioned to becoming an importer or a net importer of natural gas. Now, natural gas is the fuel that we use to heat 90% of the homes in the UK. And today, less than a third of that fuel is produced domestically onshore. And the issue with these imports is that it makes the UK economy extremely sensitive to geopolitical events. And it's caused things like the cost of living crisis here in the UK. At Tailgas, we want to change this narrative by working with facilities across the UK and the world called anaerobic digesters. So an anaerobic digester takes waste from food waste and agricultural waste. It breaks it down and converts it into something called biogas. Biogas is simply a mixture of methane and carbon dioxide. But to use that gas in our homes for heating, we need to purify it by removing the carbon dioxide. And the purification step is the critical bottleneck in this industry. So at Tailgas, we've developed a proprietary simulation tool that allows us to design these purification systems 10 times faster, and therefore we can deploy systems in a fraction of the time and at a fraction of the cost. Our business model is very straightforward. We design, build, and sell these modular biogas upgraders across the world. This year, we plan to build and deploy our first commercial demonstrator. And in the future, we hope to work with nations to help them secure their energy independence and also reach their net zero goals. My name is Sam, and thank you very much for listening.
Every physical AI system in the world at the moment is blind to the data that matters most. Physical AI is a massive market, $0.5 trillion within the next couple of years. Robots, autonomous systems, and intelligent machines that need to understand what the world is made up of. But current cameras only capture shape and color. Materials intelligence is not able to be utilized by physical AI. And the training data sets that are used within these systems compound that problem. My name is Gwen, and I'm the CEO of Perspectral, and we are changing that at the source. We utilize a compound encoder that sits on top of these camera systems to allow you to capture more data from light so that you can deploy these systems at scale for the first time, and the data flywheel that goes with it. We utilize our data to train our computer vision models, and every deployment compounds this. We are already rapidly accelerating. We have developed a system that already outperforms everything on the market to allow you to carry out materials inference for the first time. We are a group of Cambridge engineers and physicists who have been developing within this technological space with around 50 years worth of experience combined. We are looking to raise our seed round. We have already filed 2 patents and have pilot revenue generated. Physical AI needs to understand what the world is made up of. That's what we are doing at Perspectral. Come and join us. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I was actually joking with my team earlier that this is the second best room to pitch to, the first being customers, because of course we need some. Nice. Hands up if you've watched, it's actually true. I'm sure some of you know. Hands up if you've watched Inception here. Yeah, so most of you, those who haven't, I'd encourage watching it. But you know, there's an architect in Inception, and she's the dream builder. An idea that she thinks in her mind gets built in front of her eyes, and that's the future we want, and that's what we're building with Marengo. It's an AI native platform to automate all of hardware R&D, starting with aerospace and defense. So you can imagine typing in a prompt and getting a complete rocket out, and then all you would have to do is build it. In 15 years' time, we think that we'll be building, or robots, sorry, will be building it as well. So effectively, you go from an idea to an entire design. And if we look on a longer horizon, everything will tend to space. Energy and resource consumption here on Earth is limited. And we're seeing that first with the shift to data centers in space. We're going to see that with asteroid mining and everything else. You look at cities on other planets, we're going to need new cars, we're going to need new trains, boats, infrastructure, defense, and all of that needs to be redesigned. That's what we want to do here at Marengo. Yeah, that's pretty much it, not too much there. We've raised the pre-seed and we've been 2x oversubscribed, which is nice. We're also joining YC for the summer batch, which is great. I'd like to also thank the OnStage team, and I'll leave you guys with a final message from my founding engineer, Sam, who's a former NASA mission director. He said, "Hi, I just met you. This is crazy. We got into YC, so call me maybe." Thank you so much, guys. Cheers.
$20. That is the new cost of breaking into any business in the world. No longer do you need to be a well-resourced or technical hacker or attacker. No longer do you need to be a state-level threat actor. We know this because that's exactly what we did. Our agents spent $20 in token costs to break into 5 of the most prestigious companies in the world. The attack side has been democratized. Hi, I'm Paul, founder of CodeWall, and we're creating AI autonomous hacking agents. I'm a hacker at heart. I love breaking into systems, mostly for the good. We are targeting enterprises, so enterprises are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year to hire security teams to test their systems, to find security flaws and bugs. They bring in a human team, and a few weeks later, the CISO gets a report on his desk or her desk, and it's already out of date by the time they receive it because the company's already shipped hundreds of times already. So we're trying to change that entire model, which is very human-led, very service-led, and trying to use AI and take an agentic approach to turn that into a sort of an autonomous and continuous approach of hacking. Right now, we're making some really good progress. We're only 8 weeks old, so a very, very new company. But we have been featured in the Financial Times twice. The Handelsblatt in Germany recently called me the world's most successful hacker. I'm not sure about that, but I will take it. And we have 9 design partners on board, all paying customers, from a tier 1 European bank, a NYSE-listed US bank, a global consumer food platform, and where our CodeWall agents found a critical bug in their systems, which 6 years of the world's best researchers failed to miss. We're raising our pre-seed, so 3.3 million pre-seed US dollars. We have 2 million US committed, and we're now looking to fill out the remaining of the round. If that sounds interesting to you, please come and speak to me, and let's hack the planet. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Before I get started, I just want to say a huge thank you to Izzy and Hector and everyone at OnStage for putting this together. It's been a wonderful event so far, and as a founder, it's been such a great experience to meet so many great VCs and meet the community here in London. So thank you for all of that. A little bit about me. I'm an aerospace engineer. Spent 5 years at Airbus Defence and Space building digital twins for satellites, monitoring our climate, for deep space probes looking at the sun, and Mars rovers looking at Mars. Before that, I was at OneWeb building LEO constellations and doing sort of analysis for that, and also building hypersonic rocket engines at Reaction Engines, which was quite good fun. A bit of policy advice as well on the space sector in the EU and the UK specifically. A little bit about Pacific. So I founded this with Harper, co-founded it, who's my CEO and is also an aerospace engineer. Our mission really is to bring AI transformation to businesses and organizations at all scales. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but organizations are built of experts, tacit knowledge, and processes. And we think that we can help to bring those together and make them work more effectively. So what we do is we build a digital twin of your organisation. So we engage with all employees, we link many data sources together, and we really deep dive into the history of the operations of your business to map out the processes and understand who the stakeholders are and where time is spent well and where time is wasted. So once we've mapped out those processes, we can break down silos, improve that tacit knowledge transfer, and de-risk your organisation by removing single points of failure. So our real thesis is that time is money, and that you waste time when you don't know what's going on. Essentially, we build automations and we bring the experts back in the room. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Andrea, the co-founder and CEO of Thread, where we put ads inside of LLMs. We build advertising infrastructure for AI companies to monetize with ads and brands to advertise in LLMs. I started Thread after I was at Perplexity doing advertising, and my co-founder was doing his PhD in machine learning at Imperial. We started at the end of last year, and now we've grown to serving millions of ads per day, and are used by enterprises like Binance, Warner Music Group, Monday.com, and in the last 2 weeks, we closed Monopoly Go and Skechers as customers. They're spending $150K per month with us. We also bootstrap all the way here, and now have angels like the board member of Meta, the A16Z Scout Fund, and other angels from OpenAI, Google Ads, Lovable, some unicorn founders. And we're now raising our first institutional round to found on Mo, go at Thread.ai. Thank you.
Hi there. The pace and the desire and the appetite of innovation in companies of all sizes has never been so great. Innovation no longer waits for the yearly offsite, the quarterly planning cycles, or for the next Magic Quadrant paper to launch. Businesses are left in a space where they do not understand where to go next. They're looking for answers. They're finding the adoption of software incredibly daunting. But before I go further, I want to spin this up a little bit, and I want to ask you all a question. Who has purchased software or looked to purchase software in the last 12 months? Show our hands, please. And when you were navigating that, how many of you were finding the market daunting? Too many options, too many capabilities to navigate? Let's show our hands again. So this is a really interesting point here, because this room is filled with the people that probably know the most about what's happening today and what's happening in the future. And if we find it overwhelming, what chance is there for everybody else? What we see in industry is that people are looking for answers, and we hear this from our customers every single day. Traditionally, consultants would fill this gap, but they are finding this problem themselves. The market is moving so fast, they can't keep up with it. This is no longer a human solvable problem. This is why we're building Dragonfly. We take the internal context of what a business is using today, the tools, the people, the spend, the adoption rates of AI, and where they want to go next, and we match that with the external systems that are available to them. We go deeper than anybody else externally. We map the software world. We look at the vendors, the capabilities they build, the functionality, and who they serve. This gives us an incredibly unique position to guide leaders through this transformation period. Where we are as Dragonfly, we're a small team. We're a team of 10. We raised our pre-seed last year. My co-founder, Sven Sabas, sitting over there. We've had the opportunity to work in leadership businesses over the last half a decade. In the leadership teams, we've seen this firsthand. Our goal at Dragonfly is to help other leaders adopt modern technology and guide them through this change. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Nate Dunning, CEO and co-founder of Osprey Security, OSS for open source software, and our mission is to stop malicious code, not your engineers. Open source software is the foundational building blocks of the enterprises we see all around us. Engineers don't write every line of code. They bring in these OSS packages for all of that. Otherwise, it'd be too time-consuming and expensive. So they rely on these trusted sources, and attackers have figured this out. They've started poisoning these trusted sources and getting into your enterprises through open source software. 5 years ago, there were 2 malicious packages published a day. In 2026, it's 2 malicious packages per minute. Osprey is looking to solve that. What we've built is an AI machine learning pipeline that allows you to take in any of the packages that you or your AI agents are using on a daily basis, scan them for the malicious behaviors that are hidden within, and then publish exactly what you should be using and not be using. North Korea is using this particularly often. In the last couple of years, they made $2 billion by identifying companies that are using these packages and then liquefying their crypto assets or getting a foothold within the organization. Right now, we've raised our pre-seed round and we're having design partnerships signed and customers in the pipeline. We're not actively looking for investment, but what we did really well with our pre-seed is we built relationships with those investors, so when we decided it was time to raise, we were able to do so extremely quickly. We're absolutely looking to build those relationships again and raise our pre-seed round towards the end of the year or early next year. If you'd like to partner with us and pioneer the future of software supply chain security, let's chat. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Isaac from Equals, and we've built the world's largest music social network. There's a major shift going on today in the consumer landscape. Users are tired of being fed the same AI-driven, algorithmic brain slop and instead are craving true human connection. And that is where we step in. We allow the world to connect through its most universal language, music. Users on Equals join their favorite artist chat rooms and communities. They share hot takes and album reviews of their favorite musicians and connect with each other through their shared music taste. We had an incredible moment a few months ago when my co-founder and I went to a concert and met 4 girls who had not known each other before, met on Equals, and went to the concert together. It was a true proof point that our product was working. But here's some data to back it up. Today, Equals has 750,000 monthly active users, up from 100,000 at the end of 2025. We're growing 10% week on week, and our users are obsessed with our product. The average Equals user spends 35 minutes a day on our app. That's higher than Instagram and Snapchat. We've also driven 70 million friends all over our product. And we're not fighting the music industry, we're working with it. We have a global full catalog licensing deal with Universal Music. We've integrated with Apple Music and Spotify, and we've got term sheets from the primary labels all over the world for a single reason. We own the music, community, and social layer. Before I leave, I'd like to leave with you a thought. Look at any cultural vertical today. Fitness has Strava, gaming has Discord, and music has no one. Until today, until Equals. Thank you very much.
Hello. I only found out I was doing this last night, so I'm a little bit unprepared, so apologies for that. And thank you to Joel for telling me so late. I'm Matt, it's lovely to be here. I'm co-founder of Serova. Small UK tech bio. We started at the start of the year. We raised 8 more pre-seeds, and for the past 5 months, we've been building agentic workflows that allow you to go from a small blood droplet to a personalized oncology drug in a matter of hours, basically. I want to start by a little bit about my background. So I studied medicine at Oxford for 3 years, found a little bit on simulating, so I dropped out. I then went and worked for Granza, which is a YC oncology startup, and then left and ended back up at Oxford to do some research. Did that for about a year and realized that a lot of really interesting advancements in oncology take a very long time to get to the clinic, and this kind of sucks. And so I thought about how we can try and fix this, and both AI and personalized medicine has really allowed things to get to the clinic pretty fast. And so what we do at Serova is we implement models that we build and train and on data that we generate ourselves and use it to design drugs for patients under single patient INDs, which means that we're
already designing personalized drugs for patients and already dosing them. Some of you may have read about Sid from GitLab and making himself a cancer vaccine. Yeah, we were the guys that were part of that. So yeah, if you're interested in direct-to-consumer therapeutics, which is definitely expanding a lot, would love to chat more.
So that's it. What an incredible set of pitches. Hats off to every single one of you founders on stage today. You've set the bar really high for all demo days that we've got going forwards. We're going to take a short break now, so feel free to grab a coffee, have a chat, and use the time to reach out to any founders that you want to know more about. As Taos mentioned, these companies are moving really fast. We're running slightly ahead of schedule, so we'll actually meet back in here at 11:15. Please do scan the QR code on the screen for full details for anyone who's pitched today. And as I said, you can request direct introductions. I'll just move my head out of the way. Yeah, so we'll see you back here shortly for the fireside with Jack and Jill. Thank you.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the second part of Demo Day. What an extraordinary set of pitches, so big hats off to the founders. They're all building at a crazy time. It's a crazy exciting time, and it requires execution speed and actually stamina that we haven't really had to have before, founders haven't had to have before. More than ever before, we've seen these companies getting preempted by amazing funds. So I really encourage all of you investors here to reach out to the companies that have pitched ASAP today. Now, for the second part of Demo Day, we have a surprise guest. Well, not so surprise anymore, actually. But the world is now completely AI-pilled, and it's all about increasing execution speed using AI. Staying at the frontier is almost an impossible task now that the frontier is changing pretty much every week. And new competitors with a completely blank canvas are sprouting up almost daily. So I'm incredibly excited that we have one of the CTOs of one of Europe's hottest agent startups discussing what it means to build in this new world. No one's doing it better than Jack and Jill, and we are really lucky to have Saras Meehan, the co-founder and CTO, joining us on stage. So put your hands together for Saras.
Thanks for the kind words, Hector.
Not at all. It's great to have you here, Saras. So let's start from zero. So you went to Cambridge, did computer science there, moved on to the dark side, and that's coming from a VC, went to Goldman Sachs as an engineer, then moved on to Microsoft, truly blue chip career, and then decided to throw it in for founding a startup that ended up being YC backed. I think you went from like 0 to 3 million ARR in less than a year, super quick. But that wasn't enough for you. So you threw that in to found Jack and Jill and rebuild global recruitment from the ground up. You know, now CTO and co-founder Jack and Jill, running an engineering team that is shipping faster than literally any company on the planet, as far as I can tell. So can you introduce yourself and Jack and Jill?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think I could have done a better job than you have already. But yeah, I think I was always very much into entrepreneurship. I started my first business when I was about 13 years old. And from then, I think I had a stint in blue chip companies. I was at Goldman and Microsoft for a bit, but I think I always knew I wanted to go back into startups, start something myself. And that was kind of always a long-term ambition. And then, yeah, with Jack and Jill, I think being a second-time founder gives you some perspective. It gives you an opportunity to look back, reflect on what went well, what went badly, what could be improved. And I think Matt and I very much came into Jack and Jill with the utmost ambition. We wanted to do everything excellently and be truly ambitious in what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do is essentially fix the job market. I think everyone knows the experience of scrolling through LinkedIn, of applying to jobs, sending applications off into the void, of as a hiring manager getting thousands literally of candidates applying to you. And I think AI has so far made that entire experience worse with generated applications and more AI screening involved in a lot of the process. And our goal is to fix that. Our goal is to get Jack, people's personal career agent, into the hands of 1 billion people by this time next year, and get Jill, the AI hiring manager, into the hands of 10 million companies by this time next year. So yeah, that's the goal. We'll see how quickly we have to build to get there.
Well, you're well on your way, and I mean, it really is flying. I'm an early investor in Jack and Jill, and it's an incredible journey to follow. Can you just explain a little bit more about how it? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in this room have seen the Instagram ads, the LinkedIn ads. You know, you guys are very present on LinkedIn. It's worked super well for you. Like, how do people in this room interact if they're a candidate or if they're a hiring manager with Jack and Jill?
Yeah, so it's essentially, you can think of it as though there was a recruiter or a career agent for you as a candidate. You have a conversation with Jack. For a lot of people, it's actually the deepest conversation they've actually had about their career in a long, long time, if not ever. Jack kind of probes you. He asks, what are you looking for from your life, from your career? What you prioritize? Is your career actually your biggest priority, or maybe is it something else? And then comes up with a plan for you, helps discuss where you want to go with your career, whether that's finding a job right now, whether that's looking for the next promotion, whether that's networking your way into a different career path, or whether it's moving abroad. And then helps you find jobs, whether that's searching through literally thousands of jobs every day that are publicly posted, or where the real magic comes in is by introducing you directly to hiring managers who Jill is working with. And the kind of fundamental thesis is that Jack knows you deeply as a candidate and is operating in your best interest. Jill knows the companies deeply and is operating in their best interest. And by knowing both sides deeply and what each side is looking for, you can make ideal matches and kind of skip out on all the noise of the application process and of CVs and of job descriptions and get really to the heart of it, which is people being introduced to people. And we think being introduced to your future boss is essentially the most valuable thing anyone can do for your career, and that's what we're trying to make happen.
I mean, I think if you can create a world where people feel more purpose and get more purpose from their job, where they spend the majority of their time, the world will surely become a better place. And so, I'm sure that gives you guys purpose, and as you're doing in 996 or whatever you're doing. We talked about that here last time with Harry Stebbings, but
yeah, I think I'm not sure. I've got other opinions on the 996 culture, but yeah, I mean, for me personally, thinking about the impact that AI is going to have on the world, I don't think the story has yet been written in terms of how positive or negative the impact of AI will be on the world. A lot of people say that AI won't replace jobs. To be honest, I think in the next 10 years, it's not inconceivable that 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion jobs could be displaced by AI. And historically, that's not been a good thing for society. Historically, when there's been mass job displacement, it's been followed by social unrest, political unrest, upheaval. And I think when we're looking back 100 years from now and saying, hey, the story of AI was brilliant, it was a utopia, it was wholly positive, or whether we're looking back and saying, actually, there was a lot of turmoil, a lot of unrest, a lot of displacement, a lot of people had a pretty rough time. I think the decision about which path we end up going down is yet to be written. And I think a big part of why we're building this company is such that our job market can actually handle that level of displacement. Our job market has the ability to take on that amount of liquidity and is able to help people find a right path, even if they get displaced from their existing role, and is able to shepherd them, help them know where the best career pivots might be, and help them understand which routes they can take going forward. And I think, that's a big part of the reason why we're building Jack and Jill right now.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys have done an extraordinary job of building hype around the company, deservedly, because it is an absolutely breathtaking product. But there are a lot of investors, there are some founders in this room who would love to be able to advise their portfolio companies, or if you are a founder, learn for yourself how to generate that level of hype. And so I wonder if you've got any insight or kind of quick wins, low-hanging fruit, any hacks that you guys have employed to generate that hype.
I wouldn't say there's necessarily...
Or is it just giving money to Meta?
I wouldn't say there's necessarily hacks. I would say that, you always, when you're generating hype and when you're generating interest in you as a company, you always have to think about what are the things that other people won't want to do. And a lot of the things other people won't want to do is putting themselves out there, is being vulnerable, is kind of exposing themselves. It takes, actually, you talk to a lot of early stage founders, and it takes a lot of effort to put yourself out there on LinkedIn, on social media, and say, this is what I'm doing. It might fail. I might fall flat on my face in front of all my friends and family in a very public way, and be vulnerable and share the downs as well as the ups. And that's something that not a lot of people are willing to do. And I think when you understand that and understand that that's a differentiated value prop that you have for the market as well, I think always trying to be the outlier is the thing that makes people interested in what you're doing, because everyone can spend money on Meta. Everyone can send cold emails to everyone, because if you get rejected by a cold email, it's fine. No one's going to see it. It's not a public thing. But being rejected in public is something that's hard. And I think that's where you get a lot of differentiated value prop and a lot of hype, as you say, around it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, when you guys started a year ago, it was at a time when the sort of the enterprise agentic infrastructure, if you can call it that, still is pretty nascent. It's still being built kind of on the fly. But as a startup, you had a blank canvas. You were kind of able to build from the ground up a fully agentic backend, and people were really impressed with the way specifically you guys were doing it. I think there was a really interesting LinkedIn post from one of you which got a lot of attention, which was the conversation that was happening without you guys even realizing between Jack and Jill, two of the agents. Can you talk about that? I can't quite remember the details.
Yeah, I mean, so Jack and Jill are these AI agents deployed in the wild, and there's about 200,000 of them deployed at the moment. And the way they connect candidates to hiring managers is by having a conversation. There's a kind of fundamental conflict of interest with recruiters right now, which is that, are you working for the candidate or are you working for the hiring manager? That's the fundamental reason why we split up Jack and Jill. And that's not just a PR thing or a marketing thing. All the way down to the level of their system prompt, Jack is told to fundamentally work in the best interests of the candidate, and Jill is told to fundamentally work in the best interests of the company, which creates this interesting conflict which you get where a hiring manager might be asking to know about the salary of the candidate, and Jill may ask Jack for that information, but Jack will not tell Jill that information if he doesn't think it's in the best interest of the candidate, or he might give a broader range but not specific details. But you get this constant tension which these agents are constantly negotiating around. So I think one of the most interesting examples is they started talking about the dog-friendly policy of the office and then started comparing dog breeds. So Joe was like, oh, actually the hiring manager has a Cavapoo in the office as well. So we have a very dog-friendly office. And then Jack was like, oh, but we have a bigger dog actually. So would that be okay as well? So you do get this really interesting emergent behavior that comes out of these complex systems.
And are you, I mean, because from what you're describing, a lot of what you're doing is fully replicating all sort of workflows of a world-class recruitment firm. How much are you, and this is relevant to anyone who's sort of using AI to full stack replace an incumbent industry, how much are you leaning on recruiters, headhunters to actually understand what they do versus thinking, let's throw that aside and build from first principles because we can actually do it better?
Yeah, I think it's just a mixture of both, to be honest. I think we do spend a lot of time with recruiters all day, every day. Most days we'll have recruiters come to our office and have dinner with us. But there are things that you can't just copy and replace. Our initial hypothesis was that, hey, we have these smart AI agents. Recruiters primarily use email, they use voice, and that's basically it. So maybe those are the only interfaces you actually need to create a really good recruitment experience for a candidate and a hiring manager. We quickly found out that there are very fundamental differences between working with an agent and working with a human. Humans are very easily able to understand the capabilities and limitations of another human based on a very brief interaction and lots of micro interactions, because we've dealt with humans all day, every day. And as nice as it is to say some people are very different from other people, like most people broadly are pretty similar in terms of how they act, how they think, and their capabilities. That's completely different with an agent. With an agent, you're almost in this weird dance of discovering an agent's capabilities, discovering how intelligent it is, and they also operate in a very different way. Like agents might be able to solve frontier maths problems, but fail at a very basic common sense reasoning problem. And that's a very different problem. So therefore requires you to build up trust over time and kind of take the hiring manager and candidate on a journey with Jack and Jill where they slowly build up trust over time, which is something that you kind of get implicitly when you work with a human that you don't necessarily get with an agent, which means you can't just operate over email and over voice. You also need other interfaces to reassure the user that Jack and Jill are doing the right thing. And then as they build up trust, you can get to graduate to that point where you can just communicate over email and voice, but the trust needs to be built and you need to earn the right to kind of operate in those more limited interfaces.
But there are kind of layers if you can call it data, of like a human interaction of, there's the words that LLMs have got good at and that you guys have nailed. But then, we're starting to see companies that are trying to gather other layers of data, the sort of metadata around a conversation. So, maybe it's the body language, when someone kind of rolls their eyes, or the tone of their response or whatever. Are you guys thinking about incorporating some of that stuff at some point?
Yeah, we've already started experimenting with the emotional side of things. And like, it's very important for our use case. Like, Jack has some very deep, meaningful conversations with users. People are talking about their lives. People are talking about maybe getting fired. People are talking about what they want to do next. They're talking about what they're going to be spending 8 hours a day for potentially the next 5-10 years doing with their lives, which is a very deep core part of someone's ego and someone's personality. Being able to respond to those emotional cues and also reciprocate with some kind of emotion as well is like very important for us. And even in this conversation, there's 100 different cues we're each giving each other, which Jack and Jill need to be able to pick up on as well. So it's definitely a direction we're moving in.
Super interesting. And moving on slightly, we're in like the middle of a massive AI hype cycle. Like, are you at all concerned about what happens when the sort of tide may go out, if it goes out?
I think we're very mindful of hype cycles. Both our previous businesses were very exposed to the hype cycles, and we've been through the ups and downs of hype cycles. Matt's previous company was an employer of record company, which is very exposed to VC funding cycles, and when people stop hiring people abroad, then they took a hit to their revenue. My previous company was similar. So interestingly, I think this is one of the benefits as a second-time founder, is that from day one going into this space, we were super conscious about the macro and how we're resilient to the macro, how we can diversify our kind of candidates and hiring managers across industries to make us more resilient. So we're very, very aware of it. I think it's something we think about a lot, probably actually too much. I think it's one of those things where you get burnt by something once in the past and it's kind of the main focus for you. But yeah, it's definitely something we're considering deeply.
Yeah, how do you stop yourself from kind of becoming too cautious, having been burnt once? Like, is that surrounding yourself with other people who provide the right sort of input advice to change, or are you very conscious of that potential issue?
Yeah, I think we definitely tether the kind of accelerator on how aggressive we are. I think it's something we very purposefully think about and reflect on, is our level of aggression as a business and how much risk we're taking and how much risk we're comfortable with taking. I think one thing that is, I think, really good for this is just having a team of ex-founders who are very thoughtful and giving them the space to think through some of these things as well, and also the opportunity to challenge us as well. We had an offsite a few weeks ago, and we asked the team to come up with things we should be doing differently and things that they would do differently if they were in our position. And a few of the engineers came up with the idea of like, we should be far more aggressive, and really actually pushed Matt and I to say that, look, we started this business saying that this is a winner-takes-all market. We need to be super aggressive if we're going to win it, and we need to operate excellently on every front. We've done very well, and we were very, very aggressive and in the face of uncertainty at the beginning of the company. A lot of those things have been proven out, and that naturally puts you in a more comfortable position where you're getting lots of revenue coming in, and it's very easy to just say, oh, we'll just keep doubling our revenue again and again. But actually, what are things we should be doing to be more aggressive? If we want to grow 10,000x over the next year, you can't just keep doubling month on month. You've got to really grow fast if you want to grow 10,000x over next year.
I mean, I've seen the aggression, so hopefully I'm not overstepping the mark here, but certainly after our pre-seed episode 1 that we did in Jack and Jill, I think Matt told me it was for like a 3-month sprint. That, like, you know, VCs are used to kind of 24 months runway or something. And it was like, yeah, we're going to do like a 3-month sprint or something. And then, you know, Matt comes to me and says, we're going to raise seed, and we've got like 2 weeks of runway. Like, holy shit. they pull it out of the bag. It's like a $20 million seed from Crandom. But Matt's like, yeah, this is for like a 12-month sprint. And it's like, holy shit, this is the next level of aggression. But it's working for you, and it is potentially a winner-takes-all market. I was in SF a while back, and every room I was in with every top-tier VC was talking about you, asking how it was going. Like, it has worked, and you are the number one in the market. So it has worked. But I do wonder, whether that level of aggression can be used by every startup, or whether you have to sort of balance it based on a few different factors.
Yeah, I think it's just something you have to think about very logically, and it's something you have to tether. Like, I don't think it was quite the 2 weeks number, but yeah, there are definitely points where we've been very aggressive, and I think fundamentally for us it comes down to a question of, if we're going to win this market, we need to be aggressive, and there is a network effect that will be acquired in this market. And once someone captures that network effect, it's going to be very, very hard to displace that network effect. So there's various risks in a business. There's a risk that you move too fast, that you stumble over and you fall, and that something bites you in the ass. There's the risk that you move too slowly, and those are competing risks with competing trade-offs. And I think the vast majority of startups don't really usually die because they move too fast. They often lose because they move too slowly, especially in markets where there are network effects. And I think there's also a bias towards moving more slowly because it feels more comfortable, and and all the numbers are still going up and to the right. I think that's the other thing to put into context, is even moving slowly is still, everything's looking up, everything's moving in the right direction. But you can still lose doing that because you don't move fast enough and someone else is just growing faster.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to optimize for success, right? Rather than sort of minimizing the risk of failure. That's sort of the founder's job. You mentioned the ex-entrepreneurs that you've hired on the team. I think maybe like 2/3 of your team is made of ex-entrepreneurs. Can you tell us a bit about like how you've built such a high-performing team? Because everyone, I kind of hate the word cracked, but everyone wants to build a cracked engineering team. How do you actually do it?
Yeah, I think this was something Matt and I were super intentional about from day one. Our core hypothesis was that small, especially very talented engineering teams can deliver outsized value beyond the value that even much larger slightly less talented engineering teams can deliver. And we thought that was true based on our my previous company, but also was going to be even increasingly more true as AI allowed people to have more and more leverage within a business. And I think that feels like that bet's paid off. I would say that does have trade-offs. Like, that has a trade-off that it's very, very hard to hire these people, and there's very, very few of them. I think we've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people. 76 of them have come for a trial day with us, and of those 76 from a trial day, there's about 14 of whom we made offers to, and of those 14, 9 accepted, 6 rejected, and actually only 2 ever accepted initially. 12 rejected us initially, so almost everyone on our engineering team at the moment rejected us initially for at least a month, and then at some point over the next 1 to 6 months eventually accepted. And the people we lost, the people we haven't yet convinced to say yes to, was one went to work directly for Elon Musk on Macro Hard. 2 of them founded YC startups. One went to work for another company in London who I'm still going after. And it's very difficult and time-consuming to hire these people. But I think the ROI is just ridiculous, and it's incredibly valuable to have these people there. Each person is a force multiplier in the sense of I can trust them to take an entire area of the product without even a goal and just go at it and improve it, as long as they have the context on where we're going as a business and the direction we're going in. You can just throw them at any problem and they will work to solve it, and you can be confident that they'll solve it in a creative, unique way. And I think that's truly invaluable, and I wouldn't trade that for anything.
What are your arts of persuasion? Like, these people who are impossible to get, like how do you get them? Is it money? Is it something else?
It's not always money. I think money, to be realistic, I think money is a factor. And I think we have 100% made a trade-off of firstly raising a lot of money, but also having far fewer people, but paying those people well and paying them far more. So I think I'd be naive to say that money isn't a factor. But we had a hire yesterday who was had 2 offers from us and another startup. The offers were for the same amount of salary. The other startup actually offered him a 50K signing bonus as well. And we didn't want to match that, and we couldn't match that. And so we ended up writing it into his contract that we would feature his face on a billboard in San Francisco, and he's joined us today. So it's not always money. I think you have to get creative.
Is that a negative signal or a positive signal?
I think he saw the humor in it and was kind of convinced. I think, you have to treat it like an enterprise sales process, and I think a rejection is more of a maybe later than anything else. And once we decide that we want to hire someone, we put out all the stops for them, and also we treat people well. Like, I think that's the other thing. Part of the reason we said no to the signing bonus wasn't necessarily because we didn't want him to hire him. The reason we said no to the signing bonus is because we thought it was unfair on the rest of the team. And I think signing bonus is overly optimized for getting that incremental person in, rather than actually thinking about the welfare of the team. I think a signing bonus is often used to get someone over the line and not have to pay them a higher salary overall. So I think it's just also treating people well, and reputation matters, and it's a very small world we operate in. And I think if you treat people well and you genuinely have a high-performing engineering culture, and other people hear about the culture you have and the people on your team, people will want to work with you because of those things. Mm-hmm. And you can do all the salesy things, but at the end of the day, it's about what you're offering as a place for someone.
I love the billboard creativity. That is a very good idea. Not available to everyone, but love that. How do you keep everyone in the org up to date with the latest tools? Because I feel like, when you have some time, when you have some free time, you can go explore, the latest tools, and you can get up to date with it, and you can tinker and you can experiment. But once your head's down building, working really, really hard, it's quite easy to become out of date quite quickly. So how do you internally create the environment where your engineers, and actually not even just the engineers, everyone else, can stay really up to date with the latest tools and not sort of become a bit legacy?
Yeah, I think there's 2 points to that. One is, I think, as much as I kind of labor this point, hiring the best people is somewhat of a magic bullet. It's a magic bullet in that it really does solve all other problems. Having said that, it is incredibly hard to do, and it's not an easy magic bullet. But if you hire incredible people, they will come to you and push you to do this. I'll often have one-to-ones where the engineers or the commercial team have been experimenting with a new paradigm on the side over the weekend and are convinced about a new direction we should go in. And they're often the ones pushing me and pushing each other to kind of iterate and be adaptive and make sure we're kind of always on the cutting edge. I think the other point around remaining up to date with things is, previously when I built my previous startup, there's very much a cost to switching over to the latest technology, and it was very rarely worth it to kind of re-architect your entire product around a newer technology. I think the age we're in currently, especially if you're building an AI native startup, that has really changed. I think you're going to see more and more startups where they're re-architecting their fundamental product every 2 to 3 months. I think Cursor is a great example of this. They started with a tab completion product, then they moved to a sidebar, then a chat in the sidebar, then a more agentic sidebar, and then they started having cloud agents, and then distributed cloud agents, and then a hybrid between local and cloud agents. Those are all like very big fundamental re-architectures of the very core of the product. And similarly with us, we're going through a re-architecture of our core product at the moment. And I think building that muscle in a team of the ability to take a look at your existing code base, take a look at your existing product, ask yourself the question of how would we build this if we were building from scratch today, and then having that muscle of being able to go through these re-architectures and being able to do it again and again and again, I think is going to be a really important skill for a team to have over the next few years, especially as the foundational models are continually changing underneath your products at the application layer.
Yeah, I mean, it's super painful, like re-architecting a whole product, because it's kind of somewhat thankless work. Like you arrive at a place where you basically left off, but much more future-proofed, which of course is the benefit. But I mean, so I'm curious, and I'm sure a lot of people in here are curious about what it's like to run a team of essentially entrepreneurs as employees. Because the obvious pushback would be, well, all of these people are doing this for a year or two, and then they're going to leave and start their own business. Like, have you seen that happening? Like, I mean, obviously it's something you're aware of, but is it something you're concerned about as you have to scale the organization?
Yeah, so in terms of what it's like to run an organization with entrepreneurs, I think the way you run a team is very much coupled to who's in the team. I think the way we run our product and engineering org right now is very reflective of the fact that we have a team of former founders, former CTOs, former head of engineering. Because the way we run our organization is we basically give people high-level areas of the product to own over a sprint. So, for example, someone might be working on Jack's search capability. Someone might be working on Jill's architecture. And people basically get 2-3 word descriptions of what they're going to be focused on over the next kind of 2-week period. And then they're just kind of let loose to go. And it's up to them to talk to the customers, to collaborate with other people in the team they need to collaborate with, to organize themselves, to figure out what the biggest pain points are, to create MVPs, to test those MVPs with customers, to iterate on them, to decide what to prioritize, what to cut, to do the data analytics, to see if their improvements are having a positive effect, and to decide when they don't think they should be working on that area of the product anymore because there are diminishing returns. And I think that kind of level of autonomy is really appealing to founders. It's ex-founders. It's really appealing to people who have deep product insights, but also want to work on the engineering side and want to work full stack as an individual contributor. It would never work if you had a more junior engineering team, and it would lead to chaos if you had a more junior engineering team. But it works with the team we have. So I think we very much have to architect the process that we build product in with people we have. And I think you get amazing advantages if you have that really good synergy between the two. And in terms of people leaving, I am very transparent with people in the sense of I tell people 6 months from now, we're either going to be generating hundreds of millions and billions in revenue, in which case you'll probably stay, or we won't be, in which case that's fine, and we won't have won the market, and maybe we won't want to continue the business. I think the timeframes over which you can distribute a product to hundreds of thousands and millions of people is dramatically shorter than it's ever been before. And I think if someone stays a year and helps us get to the point where we're generating hundreds of millions or billions in revenue, I'm kind of fine if they want to leave afterwards because they would have gotten us to such a good place. So I think I think I'm less concerned about that side of things.
And we're entering the era of like one-person unicorns. And so you find yourself at kind of an interesting place where you're building a team, but then maybe there's this sort of grand vision of a very tiny team running a business doing billions of revenue. Like, what's your latest thinking on what the team shape will look like in say 5 years' time?
Yeah, I think 5 years is a hard horizon to look over. We very much think on like the weeks and months time scale. But I think fundamentally right now, what we're seeing is a trade-off between the advantage the advantages you get by having a very small team that's very nimble, and the advantages that you get by having a larger team that's kind of able to just execute on more things. I think right now it's very advantageous for us to have a relatively small team and be able to, as I said, like re-architect the product, rebuild the product, go in different directions depending on how the technology is evolving underneath us. And I think for the kind of foreseeable, like 6 months to a year, I think having a team of sub 40 people is a good size, which allows you to execute on an awful lot, especially if you have a very high talent bar for those people, but while still maintaining the agility and nimbleness that allows you to pivot and move around as the technology is changing underneath us. I don't think we're dogmatic about that. Like if we need to build a sales team and or a large engineering team, we will do that. But our current hypothesis is that if you want to scale 10,000x, you're not going to do that by building a sales org that's going to close 10 million customers. You're going to have to think about scalable and creative ways to do that. And I think that's just as effective with a smaller, more talent-dense team than with a larger team.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned pivot. From the outside, it doesn't really look like you pivoted, but like, what are some of those pivots or maybe hypotheses that you got wrong at the start that you've had to kind of retrofit in or change?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things we've changed and things we found out we were wrong about. I think you're right that the overarching goal and the overarching idea that fundamentally there are candidates and there are hiring managers, and people's careers aren't well managed at the moment, and there is an opportunity to connect those two sides as long as you can get enough information on each of those sides. I think fundamentally that grand vision has remained consistent. I think, for example, our search architecture, I think we've rebuilt probably 15 to 20 times with various learnings, various improvements to the models, various improvements to the underlying architecture. And for example, even on the UX side of things, Jill used to be a voice-first interaction like Jack is, and we very quickly learned that people are much more willing to talk about themselves and their career, and that's much more useful actually for them to kind of vocalize these things than it is for a hiring manager to vocalize what they're looking for in a hire. On the hiring manager side, time is much more of a constraint. It's way less valuable and way less, there's no kind of therapy element to that on the hiring manager side, whereas for people to actually think about what they're looking for in their career and what their purpose is, that's actually really useful to vocalize and really useful to have a voice interaction. So I think there's 100 different decisions like that we've kind of learned from.
And before we close out, like, I think everyone here will have sensed the insane ambition that you guys have and aggression almost that you're executing with. But we want to sort of instill that similar culture across Europe. We want more European companies like Jack and Jill building at that kind of pace. Like, I wonder if there's one or two things that you guys feel like you really, really nailed that you would impart as advice that can sort of disseminate through the startup industry here.
I think the biggest thing about the culture at Jack and Jill is probably the speed. I think speed is one of those things that, like with hiring great people, solves so many problems in of itself. You can make a lot of mistakes, but as long as you make them fast and quickly, you can still end up in a far better position. So I think that's the one thing I would say matters above anything else is be ruthlessly kind of hold yourself to account on how fast you're moving and whether you could be moving faster. We have an interview question, which I probably won't be able to use after saying this, but where we ask people to architect the system and ask them how long it will take to build. And most people say 2 days, 2 to 3 days. And we continually ask them, how would you build this system in 6 hours, in 4 hours, in 2 hours, in 1 hour, in 30 minutes, in 20 minutes, in 5 minutes, in 1 minute? And I think the solutions you get at 1 minute are usually relatively naive, but the 5, 10, 30-minute solutions are often quite interesting.
It's a great insight. Cyrus, it's been amazing having you here. Can we put our hands together for Cyrus?
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Cyrus. That was amazing. And it brings us to the end of this phenomenal demo day. And I cannot wait to see what all of the startups that have pitched today achieve. Taos, and actually Cyrus, and pretty much everyone here has spoken about the importance of pace of execution in our industry now. And they're absolutely right. I mean, for founders at the moment, the opportunity really does belong to those who can execute at extraordinary speed. And it's going to be those who embrace change and can adapt really fast who thrive. And rather than sort of resisting the change, they really embrace it. So I urge everyone here in this audience to, and especially our founders, to prioritize pace of execution really above all else. I think the results of doing that can be seen by the extraordinary success that Jack and Jill and other teams like Cyrus's team have experienced over the last year or so. We're witnessing like an insane time. It's certainly an evolution. I think it's more like a revolution with AI in this industry. And without wanting to reduce it to just survival of the fittest, it definitely is the case that the most agile teams are going to be the ones who thrive. And so traits of kind of agility, adaptability are going to be the superpowers to really lean into over the next few years. For our founders, it means staying super nimble. It means staying open to pivots, prioritizing speed. It means for us as investors, prioritizing curiosity, perhaps in a way that we haven't, and sort of continuous learning in a way that we haven't really needed to over the last few years, just because we'll all get out of date so quickly if we don't. By embracing this change, we will ensure that we're not just surviving, but we're actually leading the way into what I think will be a super exciting and very positive future. So that is everything for now, and a big final thank you to everyone who's joined and everyone who's pitched and our sponsors, and I really look forward to catching up with a few of you outside after this. Thank you very much.